and just really pleased to announce that Emily Sinkhorn has accepted that position. She's been on the job for a few weeks now. To say that she's hit the ground running would be an understatement. The position, as I think the council knows, but it really balances both all of the city's environmental initiatives as well as a lot of our traditional public works functions. So Emily's background is very strong in environmental stewardship locally in this region, also touching substantially on alternative transportation and walkable, livable cities work. And then also has some background in kind of, grassroots movements as well. So we're excited to have her. Staff, I think, have been excited to have her jump on board quickly and gain an understanding of the work that we're doing. Want to encourage the community to reach out and touch base with her on issues around environmental services and kind of traditional public works when they feel ready, as well as if the council would like to spend any time with her to let us know, and we can set up some time as well. So welcome, Emily. If you wanted just to say a couple of words, feel free to.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and Council members. I have been honored, to have been selected to join the amazing environmental services team and really getting up to speed so far on all the essential city services, all the complexities around maintaining parks and open spaces and facilities, and then the really innovative energy, solid waste, and recreational programming that the city really encompasses. And I felt very welcomed from the ES team and many departments. And I'm really looking forward to working with you, the council, and the community at large coming up here, and really to support furthering many city goals. So thank you very much, and look forward to working with you soon.
Great, welcome aboard. Okay, well, we also have under ceremonial matters an introduction of a new employee, our new assistant city engineer. So I'm going to turn it over to Netra for the introduction.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, council members. We recently hired David Case as an assistant city engineer for City of Arcata. David Case is a licensed civil engineer, and he has both public and private experience. And he's been in the area for more than 15 years, so he knows the area pretty well. Before joining us, he was an assistant city engineer at City of Eureka. So we are very excited for him to be here, part of our team, make our team here. And it's been a week. He has already started working on the projects, so we are very excited. He'll be improving our infrastructure projects in the city. So David is here if you want to say a few words.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say other than so far everyone I've met has been very nice, friendly, and welcoming. So I'm really excited to be part of the team and looking forward to working with everyone.
Welcome. Well, thank you. Next, under ceremonial matters, we do have a proclamation in honor of Kinetic Sculpture Racing, May 29th, 2021. Whereas the art and sport of kinetic sculpture racing, difficult to truly comprehend but easy to enjoy, is a Humboldt tradition originating in Ferndale and spreading like wildfire to other parts of planet Earth. And whereas the kinetic tradition has been a part of Humboldt County life since 1969, with at least one kinetic race starting on the Arcata Plaza for the last 50 years. And whereas the Kinetic Grand Championship is a tribute to the rich history of kinetic racing in Humboldt County. Kinetic Universe, the Kinetic Grand Championship's nonprofit organizing body, works to promote the tradition and values of kinetic sculpture racing in Humboldt County. And whereas kinetic sculpture racing encourages the recycling of junk and tidying up of our environment while exploring sustainable transportation as a creative solution to greenhouse gas emitting vehicles, thus fighting global climate change. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Arcata hereby congratulates Kinetic Universe on its glorious and dedicated stewardship of the uniquely Humboldtian tradition of kinetic sculpture racing. The Council encourages everyone to witness the 2021 Kinetic Sculpture in place on Saturday, May 29th, 2021 at kineticgrandchampionship.com for the glory. Signed today by the Mayor. So May 29th, folks. Okay. And then let's see, next we have early oral communications. And this 15-minute time period is provided for people to address the council on matters not on tonight's agenda. At the conclusion of all oral communications, the council may respond to statements. Any request that requires council action will be set by the council for a future agenda or referred to staff. Speakers addressing the council at this time are limited to 2 minutes, and we can take up to 7 speakers. Please raise your hand if you are on Zoom, or press *9 if you are calling in by phone and wish to make a comment. And do we have any members of the public that would like to speak on an item that is not on tonight's agenda?
We do, Mayor. Screen name rawwarpaint@yahoo.com. Can you please go ahead?
Hi. Yeah, I wanted to speak on behalf of the old Arcata Road project by Jacoby Creek, the roundabout.
Yeah, we'll likely have that on the agenda
Okay, so I should wait.
this evening. Yeah, so if you're speaking about that, that will be under old business. Or sorry, new.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm checking one more time if there is anybody that wishes to speak on an item that is not on tonight's agenda. Yes, we do have one. Please go ahead, Maggie. You'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I have just a short announcement. Zero Waste Humboldt has joined a growing number of zero waste organizations around the country for a campaign that is to help businesses, each in our own local communities, that is reopen with reuse. And I just simply wanted to make that announcement. We'll have information for businesses. We'll be able to coach them, help them. And I know this is one of the goals of the city, to help businesses reopen and to get back on track with reuse and reducing plastics in particular. That's my announcement.
Thank you. I'm checking one more time for any public comment on an item not on tonight's agenda. No more public comment, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have our consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by the City Council and are enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of any of these items. If discussion is required, that item is removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. At the end of the reading of the consent calendar, council members or members of the public can request that an item be removed for separate discussion. So let's see, we have item A, approve the minutes of the City Council meeting of May 5th, 2021. B, biweekly reports on general warrants. C, adopt resolution number 201-55, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Arcata authorizing an operating capital loan to Arcata House Partnership. D, approve a professional services agreement with SHN for assistance with the Arcata Wastewater Treatment Facility Upgrade Project Coastal Development Permit in the amount of $50,000 and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. And lastly, item E, approve a proclamation in recognition of Mental Health Matters Month, May 2021. And are there any council members that would like to remove an item? I will pull item E from the consent calendar so it can be read aloud. But are there any members of the public or staff that request an item be removed?
Seeing none.
Okay, well, I will entertain a motion.
I move to adopt the consent calendar with the exception of item E.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let me call by roll call, excuse me. Councilmember Atkins Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember Goldstein.
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. So motion passes. And then let me just pull up this proclamation. Excuse me a moment. All right, there we go. Okay. So a proclamation in recognition of Mental Health Matters Month, May 2021. Whereas May is Mental Health Matters Month and greater public awareness about mental health changes attitudes, promotes wellness, and reduces stigma and discrimination. And whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being. And whereas mental health conditions are real and prevalent in our nation and all Americans face challenges in life that can impact their mental health, especially during a pandemic. And whereas we recognize Humboldt County's ongoing challenges with providing behavioral health services in a remote and rural area, as well as the prevalence of adverse childhood experiences that disproportionately affect our county. And whereas we commend the Humboldt County Department of Health and Human Services and all the community partner organizations and individuals, including private, faith-based, and governmental, for their outstanding work improving the quality of life and their support for community members with mental illness and substance use challenges in their recovery. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Arcata hereby proclaims May 2021 as Mental Health Matters Month and calls upon the residents, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in Arcata to commit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health, the steps our residents can take to promote their mental health, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental health conditions. Signed today by myself. And we'll make sure a copy gets to the proponent of this proclamation. So thank you. Okay, next, we don't have any old business, so we will move on to new business. Item A, consider the Old Arcata Road Rehabilitation and Pedestrian Bikeways Improvement Project. May we have a staff report from City Engineer Netra Khatri.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and the council members. Before I start my staff report, maybe I'll just give the stage to David on some of the matter, and then I'll take it over right after that. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Khatri. We did just want to put out the call for ex parte disclosures before we started our staff report. We're aware that some council members were approached by members of the public, and so before we present material for the staff report, it's an opportunity for the council to talk about the substantive information that they gathered in those conversations and bring that into the public hearing process. So we wanted to allow time for that before we got started.
Okay, I'll just do it by roll call. And if you don't have any, you can just say you don't have any. Let's see, Councilmember Schaefer.
Yeah, so just, I guess, to share kind of some of the things I heard, what I really took away as kind of the main concerns from a group of citizens that I met with out by, the site where the proposed project and the proposed roundabout would be the impact to kind of the historical resources of the neighborhood and possible historic / economic impacts, both to the Bayside Community Hall and to the possible removal of parking from that historic space, that would make it less accessible to the public visiting this area. And a main concern definitely that I heard the most probably from folks was the removal of parking, for the Bayside Community Hall and those parking spots that are up right against Mistwood School there. However, I mean, these have been, it's in the public record comment as well. There's been, many letters about these things. And then also concerns about lighting that a few citizens, especially ones that are living right directly in that area where the proposed roundabout is, just to, improve the lighting, street lighting, and for, future crosswalks and everything like that, to make those improvements, to continue the hope of making it safer for pedestrians, bicyclists, cars, and all the like. So I think those were kind of the main three things that I heard in conversations. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Goldstein?
Yeah, I heard pretty much the same things. I think the goals that I heard expressed were to find a balance between the goals of the current project, which are to safety, and also preserve the historic nature of that neighborhood. I would say definitely I agree with Councilmember Schaefer that the biggest concern I heard was around parking. The loss of parking spaces on both sides of the road seemed pretty distressing to the people that I talked to in the community, because it does sound like there are already existing issues with overflow parking during events and things, that losing parking spaces would be pretty difficult. And then, yeah, there were people who lived directly right on the side of the road where there's already an existing streetlight, and they really want more safety. It sounds like they have a lot of issues with traffic safety in front of their property. So things like lighting and yeah, the goals of this project to really slow down traffic a bit. So yeah, I would say historic preservation and parking were probably the biggest oppositions that I heard.
Thank you. And then Councilmember Atkins Salazar, any ex parte?
Yes, I was in the same meeting that Sarah was in, or the same presentation. And what struck me the most was definitely the fear of some loss of historical sites, and then also parking. So those were both two of the biggest concerns expressed by some of the people that were at that meeting. There has been also, I've received a lot of phone calls and emails, as I'm sure many of you guys have as well, but there are definitely people in the community that are wanting this to move forward and are really wanting safety measures. So there's definitely a lot of opinions on both sides of this issue.
Okay, thank you. And then I did not have any ex parte communications. Any communication I've received has been by email, like other council members have received, but I have not had a separate conversation. Okay, let's see. So why don't we go forward with the staff report now?
Okay, thank you again. Thank you, David. So I will share my screen. So give me a moment here. And let me know when you're able to see my screen. Yes?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so what our goal here today is to give you a project overview. I know some of you and some of the staff and other public members have seen this presentation for maybe at least 5 times, but there might be some repetitive information, but I will try to just give you a snapshot of the project, how it started and how we end up here today, just from project timeline perspective. So with that, what I plan to do is we will just give you a brief project history overview, current status of the project, where we stand today, and as we heard in the last few months, or maybe more than few months, parking has been an issue at the intersection of Jacoby Creek and Old Arcata Road. So we did some analysis, and we will be presenting that as well. And right after that, I will hand the stage back to David Loya, who will be going over the environmental document and the CEQA process and the next steps for the project. So with that, so as you know, we've been, the project encompasses approximately 1 mile of pavement and just south of Buttermilk to the intersection of Jacoby Creek and Old Arcata Road. In the project area, there are 3 schools. One is Sunnybrae Middle School, one is Jacoby Creek School, and there is a Mistwood Montessori School in the area. As you know, road is in very bad condition. We have received complaints in last 10 years, I would say. The original project started in mid-2000, and we had construction plans prepared, and we tried to go for construction. However, the neighborhood did not like the proposed plan, so we had to cut the project. After that, there was a big gap, and in 2014-15, at our TSC meetings, we received multiple comments, feedback from the neighbors that, we need to do something about the project. There's some speeding issues. We need to have safety for children in the area. So based on those comments, we budgeted approximately $50,000 from street funds, and we proposed to do a planning / design / public outreach for the project. And budget was approved, and when we went through an RFP process, and we hired RCA and SHN to help us with our public outreach and planning process. The goal of the planning process, and we call that the design shared process, was to provide multiple ways to share ideas from public, get some feedback, create a community-driven plan for the Old Arcata Road project, and prepare the conceptual level design for future funding. Having conceptual drawings helps us to get the grants. So the goal was to have at least 30% design or a concept level drawings and do a project study report in place, or reporting be done in time so that we can apply for grants. In the past and recently, city has been very successful getting the grants when we do initial public outreach and planning process. So that was the same goal for that project as well. We conducted a lot of outreach for the project via flyers, PSAs, social media, website, school newsletters, emails, workshop, and through CMS, changeable message signs, along the Old Arcata Road to engage people in the process. We had a total of 3 workshops, one pop-up demonstration in front of the school, and one at the intersection of Jacoby Creek and Old Arcata Road. We had online survey. We could receive information through our city website. There was a project-specific website, and we got information there from people. Overall, in the process of all workshop and pop-up demonstration, we received, at least we would say, there were more than 285 participants in the process. We had our first meeting at the Bayside Grange, now it's called the Hall, where we had more than 90 attendants. The goal of that meeting was to seek initial input from the neighbor, school, TSC, and all the members of the public. We had a small group in the process where each group, or a public members group, where we had a design volunteer dedicated to the group and who was helping them to guide through the process and get the feedback. There were some disagreements in the process, but however, one common theme was, we need to have safety improvements on Old Arcata Road, and we need some sort of a sidewalk where the children could walk safely. So that was a common theme in that process. Second we did was a walk audit. The walk audit, when we did that, we had at least 40 participants. That included city staff, our consultants, members from TSC, school staff, and member of the public. Okay, I'll just pass through that. So the goal of the walk audit was to identify the problems along the Old Arcata Road. So we walked from school, we observed what happens in front of the school during drop-off or pickup time. So this meeting occurred at the pickup time in the afternoon, so we all noticed how the traffic was behaving during the pickup time. So based on that, we had some recommendation in the project. And also during the walk audit, it was identified that there is a lack of sidewalk on the Highland Street where kids were walking on the street because there's no sidewalk on the one side of the Highland Street. Third was we did a pop-up demonstration, as I said, one was in front of the Jacoby Creek School, just to see how in future, if there's a separate pathway or sidewalk, how it will look. And we did receive positive feedback on that. And then the other one was we simulated, not a roundabout, but we narrowed the lanes at the intersection of Jacoby Creek and Old Arcata Road. We also received positive feedback on that as well. So after having a walk audit, initial meeting and some pop-up demonstration, we worked with our design team and we drafted some of the concept level designs, and we try to seek feedback from public. So at the meeting, we had our design team explaining not each, but most of the public members the design, if they had any questions on the design, and we explained and we asked them to give feedback or put a postmark with the notes, what they like, what they dislike on the proposed projects or the proposed alternatives. We did receive a lot of positive feedback on the project, and there was some constructive negative feedback and also a lot of positive feedback. So the key feedback that we received was maintain the rural character of the Bayside area along the old Arcata Road, improve the safety, and people did like the separate pathway which already exists just north of the Jacoby Creek School along the old Arcata Road. Desired improvements from public was, traffic calming is important. We need pedestrian walkways. There needs to be a clear center line or double center line, safer crosswalks, pedestrian safety crossing at the in front of the school, signage improvements, and improving the intersection of Jacoby Creek intersection. All the improvements should be bike friendly. There were some individual or participants who wanted to leave the roadway the way it is with no improvements. So based on all the feedbacks, we, as a design team, we worked with the design team and we prepared 4 different alternatives for the project. Overall, it's a 1 mile stretch of the project. Most of the improvements are same with 2 travel lanes and bike lanes on either side, and some sort of a walkway. It could be a sidewalk or a separate pathway was a common. But the key areas were the area in front of the Jacoby Creek and school, and then the other one was the intersection of Jacoby Creek Road and then the old Arcata Road. So we just focus on that. Most of the improvements in other areas remain same, but the only difference was the alternative one was having a separate path in front of the Jacoby Creek and raised islands and then narrowing the roadway in that area. So that was alternative 1. Alternative 2 was same with a separate path, but instead of a raised island, there would be a roundabout at the intersection of Jacoby Creek and Old Arcata Road. And similarly, alternative 3 was having a curbed sidewalk in front of a Jacoby Creek school without a buffer, and having a raised islands and narrow roadways at the intersection of Old Arcata Road and Jacoby Creek. And the 4th alternative was curbed sidewalk with a roundabout at the intersection of Jacoby Creek and the Old Arcata Road intersection. So in concept, I would not go in detail. I just described how the alternatives are. This is how the alternative 1 will look. The area in front of the Jacoby Creek, there will be a separate walkway, buffer, some sort of a bioswale, bike lane on either side, and 2 travel lanes. And intersection of, in concept, the intersection of Jacoby Creek and Old Arcata would be narrowed with a sidewalk, adding some concrete walkways and improving the walking area in front of the post office as well. Total approximate cost, and this is the cost base of 2018. We have not redone the cost. I'm sure it will be a bit more, but it was a conservative estimate, so it may not change significantly. So it was approximately, cost was $4 million for the improvements for alternative 1. Alternative 2, as I said, it was a separate path with the bioswale and 2 travel lanes and bike lanes on either side, and a roundabout at the intersection of Old Arcata Road and Jacoby Creek intersection with walkway improvements in front of the post office. Again, this was in the concept level, at that level when we did this 4 years ago or 3.5 years ago. The cost of that improvement would be approximately, again, $3.9 million. Alternative 3, so this is a bit different than alternative 1 and 2. It has a curb sidewalk without a buffer or without a bioswale, but it has 2 travel lanes and bike lanes on either side in front of the school. And then the improvements is similar at the intersection of Old Arcata and Jacoby Creek with a sidewalk and a narrow travel lane and improvement in front of the post office. And then the cost of that improvement would be approximately $4.1 million as well. And alternative 4 differs with alternative 3 with respect to the roundabout at the intersection of Old Arcata Road and Jacoby Creek. And it will have improvements in front of the post office for walking. And then there will, you can see in front of the school, there will be no bioswale in front of the school. There will be just a sidewalk to travel in. However, this has been modified since then, and there is a turn pocket here at the entrance of the Jacoby Creek School. And we have not drafted that, but that has been done also in the concept level. And the cost of the improvements for this alternative was $4.1 million. So you can see, there was not a lot of cost difference in those alternatives. So I'll just go back to the summary of the key dates. I went through just a snapshot of the design share process and public outreach meetings that we conducted in early 2016. We did do a presentation at the TSC and at the City Council, when we were at the 90% level for the in the design share process, and we received the positive feedback from TSC and the City Council, and then the planning process was finalized at the early January 2017, and the report was completed. So we had a project study report complete, and the concept design is done. So we wanted to move forward with applying for grants for the project, but for applying for the grants for the project, we had to select an alternative to move forward to take that level to next 30% design or engineering drawing level. So we went to the council in December of 2017 and presented this same slide, same process, and all the alternatives. And based on staff recommendation, TSC recommendation, alternative 4 was selected, and we moved forward with alternative 4, which was a separate sidewalk in front of the Jacoby Creek School and a roundabout at the intersection of Jacoby Creek and the Old Arcata Road. So once we got direction to move forward with alternative 4, we went through an RFP process and hired consulting team GHD to help us with the final design or 30% level design and environmental document for the project. So currently they are on contract with us, and they are helping us with design and environmental documents. I have some section that I can go quickly. So once we hired the GHD team, they prepared 30% level design drawing and gave it to us in 10 months after the contract was executed. We did our survey, the right-of-way survey in-house. We have a licensed surveyor, so he conducted that, and we used that as a basis. All the improvements for the project will be done within the city right-of-way or the county right-of-way. There's a small portion of the project is in the county right-of-way at the intersection of Jacoby Creek and Old Arcata Road. So I'll just quickly show you the alignment of the project based on the engineering drawings. So this is the alignment of the project just south of Buttermilk Lane along the Old Arcata Road, and this is the intersection of Old Arcata and Jacoby Creek. So the section just south of Buttermilk will look something like this. It will have 2 travel lanes and it could be a bioswale buffer or a striped buffer, 5 foot, and then the 2 5-foot bike lanes on either side. Section right in front of at the intersection of Anwick Road and Old Arcata Road will look like something like this, with a 5-foot bike lane, 2 travel lane, again 5-foot bike lane, and there is existing buffer which varies from 4 to 10 feet, and then there will be a reconstructed new 6-foot walkway. The section just in the area vicinity of Golf Course Road and Old Arcata Road will look like something like this, with bike lanes on either side, 10-foot travel lane, bioswale, and a walkway, or it could be a sidewalk. Similarly, just north of that, the section will look like this, which is almost similar. The only difference here is there is an existing sidewalk on the east side, and there'll be a new sidewalk on the west side of the Old Arcata Road. And again, all the work will be done within the existing city right away. Just also, as I mentioned earlier, during the walk audit, it was identified that there's a need for a sidewalk. So the section of the Highland Street will look like we have a 50-foot right away there. There will be 2 travel lanes, parking on either side, and there will be a new sidewalk just on the north side of the Highland. The section at the Jacoby Creek Road will look like something like this. There are 2 travel lanes currently, and there's a parking on the, I would say, south side, and there's an existing ditch on the north side. So that ditch will be covered. We will be putting in storm drain pipe, and it will be covered, and there will be an added new paved area for proper parking along the street. And this is just in concept. If we do a roundabout, how that will look like. This is just in concept, which was prepared in 2019 for the project. So in the last, I would say, 3 to 4 years, we have made a lot of progress. After hiring a GHD on our team, we have done multiple reports that needed for the project to complete the environmental document. Most recently, we prepared an archaeological and historic property survey report and presented to the Caltrans, which was almost like last week. And they are reviewing that currently, and we will see what kind of response we get. We have 30% design done, and we cannot move forward until our environmental document is completed. And on the environmental document, David Keep will provide some detail on that. So overall, currently, in a way we stand, the total project cost is approximately $4.1 million. We do have secured state funding for a portion of it, and then through federal highway infrastructure program, that those fundings are secured for construction. We do have some timeline, but we do have to start the construction or finish the design by mid-2022 to make this happen. And if that happens, we'll be able to do the construction late summer of 2022. And that's still our goal. And before I go forward, or I let Dave speak about the environmental document, I'll just give you a quick overview of the parking. I'll stop sharing my screen here, and let me open a new document. And I'm going to reshare my screen here again. So I'm hoping you all are able to see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. So what you see in front of you is, if you're able to see my mouse, this is Old Arcata Road here, and this is Jacoby Creek Road. This is the post office here, and this is Mistwood here, and the hall is right here. So before I explain, you see those red lines are existing parking pattern, I would say. I know some people might disagree with that, people park randomly, but for our analysis, we had made some assumption that minimum parking area width has to be minimum 8.5 or 9 feet, and the depth of at least 18 feet. So, and then there needs to be a room for people to back, which is normally 24 feet. And so we use that as a basis for our analysis. So based on that analysis, we put all the parking spots in the vicinity of the intersection. And currently, we believe there are 79 parking spaces, which includes the parking for the hall, parking for the post office, parking in front of our lift station, and along the Jacoby Creek Road. As you will see now, we have not included the parking on the north side of Jacoby Creek in front of the hall because there is an existing ditch, and we're not supposed to park, and there's not enough width to do a parking. So we did not analyze that, or we did not include those numbers there. So that's an existing condition. Next. So this, if we end up with a roundabout and we do the similar. So here the assumption is city's area where the lift station is, we will reconfigure to have some additional parking there. And we assume that Mistwood, they have some open space in their property. They will be able to use some of their area for parking. So if we include that and nothing else changes, the total parking would be 71, which is 8 stalls less than the existing condition. And again, we have not included any counting along the north side of the Jacoby Creek Road. Slight improvement on this one. So what we did is, as I mentioned earlier, we are proposing to install a storm drain pipe where there's a ditch along the Jacoby Creek Road. So that will be covered with, and then there'll be added 6 foot of paved shoulder. So then people will be able to park that. So if we do that, the total parking will be 82, which is 3 more than existing one. And I agree, like some of the designers may not, concur with our assessment of here. No, we are not using this area for parking because there's not enough width for parking. But that's our initial analysis. So with that, I'll stop my sharing my screen. I will hand this stage to David just to talk about the environmental document / CEQA process. And then after that, we will take some questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Khatri. I'll keep this brief. We did originally intend to bring forward the coastal development permit that the City Council would approve, as well as the mitigated negative declaration and the mitigation monitoring program for your approval tonight. And so there's information in this written staff report about the coastal development permit. I'm not going to go into any of that detail, but if you have questions, we can come back to it. And the reason I'm not going to go into the details is because we can't take action on it tonight. We'll be coming back later to take action on it. And so we'll get into those details then. The one thing I will say, just so you understand the process, as Nature had pointed out, this project has area that's both in the city's jurisdiction, but some area that's in the county jurisdiction. And so the city will be taking on the lead for CEQA. It'll be the lead agency, and it'll be taking action on its coastal development permit first. After that, we'll be getting a coastal development permit from the county because we have some area within their jurisdiction as well. And they will rely on our CEQA document to process their permit. And so that's just point to note. And so tonight we do have before you the action, the conditions of approval, and et cetera in your packet attachment A. We're not asking you to take action on those. Essentially what happened was as we were preparing the staff report for this project, a fair argument was submitted. For CEQA, what a fair argument essentially boils down to is that an expert presented information that it is contradictory to the information that we have in our initial studies. And so the city needs to evaluate that fair argument in an environmental impact report. And so as we indicated in the CEQA section, we cited the CEQA guidelines sections that are relevant to this, but we had to take a step back and can't adopt a mitigated neg deck at this point. We have to move forward with an EIR. On, I believe it was Monday, we formally filed the notice of preparation. It's the first step in preparing an EIR is that you let state agencies and other agencies know we're preparing an EIR. Do you have any comments that you want to add into this early scoping to ensure that we've got the project fleshed out that we'll be evaluating in this EIR? Now, we have the benefit of having a very robust initial study that clearly describes the project, the preferred alternative or the proposed project in great detail that was indicated by prior councils. As we get into the environmental impact report, we'll need to develop some alternatives. Nature has indicated that we already have some scoping for alternatives, but we'll come back to the community and to agencies to make sure that we've developed an adequate range of alternatives to address in that EIR. But that's what this first 30-day period is used for, is to try and get input from agencies. As part of our notice of prep, we actually put a link to the initial study, and we also gave the agencies that commented on that initial study the comments that they had made on it, so that they'd have that fresh in their memory when they're responding, if they choose to, in this first 30-day period. During this time, we'll be working on developing the draft EIR. I don't have a time frame yet for when we'll have that draft ready, but when we do, there's going to be a 45-day period for public circulation. That'll be a time frame for the public to provide comments, and largely like we did with this initial study, where we've taken in the public comment that we received and then formally responded to it in terms of how it relates to the environmental impacts that we've assessed, we'll have an opportunity for people to provide that public comment. We'll take that public comment, formally respond to it, and develop a final environmental impact report. And those two documents together, the draft and the final, constitute the body of SQL work that you'll be basing your decision on. It's not like the final replaces the draft, it just adds to the draft. And so sometime, say in the next 4 to 6 months is what we're hoping as a fairly quick turnaround timescale, considering that we've already got this really good head start on the initial study. We'll be able to come back to the council for for further hearings on that environmental document and on the coastal development permit. And so, the one thing I'll put out, I know, there was some discussion about, among staff about whether to continue this hearing to a date certain. And that's actually the recommendation in the staff report. And so, council should consider whether or not you want to continue this hearing to a date certain so we can have, more discussion with the community, maybe a town hall style so that the council members can hear directly from folks, now what their concerns are. Or alternatively, as we develop this draft environmental impact report, we can schedule a hearing at that time, which we normally would, to provide the public input on the draft environmental impact report. So I guess, backing up a little bit to the recommendation, either continue as recommended or not. If you choose not to, we'll schedule a separate hearing to do some of that more town hall style scoping that the council can attend the community's concerns to. The last thing I'll say, this project is a little complex, more complicated than some in terms of the environmental analysis. Because of the Caltrans funding, they're actually doing a National Environmental Policy Act review, so the NEPA review. They're doing cross-cutting, and so we're providing them similar information. They're actually taking the lead on that environmental analysis. You won't need to take any action on that, any formal action, but we'll continue to keep you apprised. CEQA and NEPA, there's a lot of overlap, but there's also certain laws that regulate these reviews differently. And so we'll be focused squarely on CEQA in our review. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, or if you have project questions, I'm sure Director Khatri would be happy to answer those questions as well.
Okay, well, thank you both. Let me just do by roll call, see if there's any questions from the council. We'll start with Councilmember Schaefer.
Great. No, that was just a lot of information, but thank you so much to both Netcher and David just for everything. I mean, you guys have done a lot of work on this. And so I guess my first question that I have, because I don't know, just looking at these different alternatives and knowing that the past council had approved the alternative with the roundabout, with the sidewalk, and that has kind of been the plan that had gone forward. But has there been, I guess, any I don't know, study, I guess, into, because I heard a lot of comment about that T intersection instead, and that kind of probably more similar to alternative 3. But kind of just in my head thinking about how to fuse the traffic calming of a roundabout with the, kind of intersection and T intersection of alternative 3. So I guess my main question is, especially going northbound on Old Arcata Road coming into Bayside, what other traffic calming measures could be taken? And has there been, I guess, any look into possibly putting speed humps like they have over on the other end of Bayside, or, even a stop sign, though that does seem kind of abrupt. So my general question is kind of, what other traffic calming measures could be taken, and have we looked into that?
Nature, do you want to
No, yes, I was just waiting. Is there more questions from other council members, or should I just do one-on-one? I could do either way. I was just not sure how we want to do that. So I can respond to Sarah's few of the questions.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and answer, just in case you say something that maybe would answer a potential question that their colleague had.
Okay, so we have looked into other measures, definitely. I would say, as you know, Old Arcata Road is a arterial road and auxiliary route to 101. So putting a stop sign is not ideal on a major street like that. Putting a speed hump also is not ideal because in that range, just south of Jacoby Creek Road, the speed limit is higher. So we don't recommend speed humps. Even on the local streets, we don't recommend when the speeds are high, especially on the major streets like this. Other alternatives could be, that was presented in alternative 3 was to narrowing down. I believe we have to let physical barrier, let people know that lane is narrow coming ahead. So in narrowing the lane, I would say the term is choking the road in a fashion with a landscape or curb or a sidewalk, so that you don't see a wide road, you see a narrow lanes coming, so you automatically slow down. And that works for, I would say, 85 to 95% of the people, definitely, but not for remainder 5%. So we always will have those 5% who will not obey those laws. So I did answer your speed hump, sign, and then the other measures. Did I miss any of your question?
No, I think that's good. And oh yeah, go ahead, David.
I was just going to add that with the EIR, we are required to actually evaluate feasible alternatives to the proposed project. And so the T intersection with, additional, road diet, if you will be one of the alternatives that we evaluate in that EIR.
Great. Okay. And then I guess I had one other question just about, and maybe this is more of a comment than a question, but just overall safety of roundabouts for cyclists, and possibly, what could be done to mitigate that, or what that might look like. I mean, to improve safety, because I know, this whole project is about improving safety for pedestrians and cyclists and also slowing traffic speeds. However, a roundabout does some of those things, but it also actually, negatively impacts cyclists some of the time. And so I don't know if that's more of a question or comment, but I guess just, what study has been done in, with this project of what that would look like for cyclists with this roundabout?
I would say there's not a detailed study has been done just for specific to that, but I'll just give you examples that our existing roundabout at the Foster Avenue and the Sunset, at the legs of those roundabout, there is a bicycle lane, a bicycle ramp. So the person who does not feel comfortable going through the roundabout, they have an option ramping up. I know some people don't like bicycles on the sidewalk, but the sidewalks or the concrete walkway would be wide enough. So less experienced bicyclist, he or she could use that ramp and go on the concrete and cross safely without going inside the roundabout. But I have also heard other bicyclists who want to be part of the traffic and they are comfortable going through the roundabout. So there is an option for that. And in the final design, that will be definitely accounted for bicycle safety.
Yeah, because I guess, and this, just what comes to my mind is that, especially with kids who are biking, in that neighborhood with 2 schools being there, who might not be experienced cyclists and might not know how to navigate, a roundabout, to have some sort of, signage that could say bicyclists can go this way, but they can also, go this way and be in that kind of separated sidewalk or separated lane away from traffic, if that's, what they feel comfortable with. So great.
Yes, so there will be, we can consider, like not consider, but we can make that a part of the project, having a bicycle lane if we end up doing a roundabout. And also at every single leg of the roundabout, there will be a push button crossing, so the kids or anybody could stop the traffic and they can cross the roundabout safely. Mm-hmm.
Great.
Traffic.
Okay. Cool. No other questions right now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Councilmember Goldstein, any questions?
Yeah, thanks so much for all that information. It was a lot of, I'm still processing a little bit, but that was a lot of really great information. I really appreciate you both taking the time. One question that was asked to me when I met with the group of folks that live over there by where the roundabout is proposed, because there was this conversation about maintaining historical integrity, there was a question about, did somebody locally who understands like rural history do a historical impact analysis or something of that nature? I think one of them mentioned to me that the person who had done some of the analysis was from, I think, San Francisco maybe, but maybe just not as familiar with our type of history. I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit more to that.
I'd like to suggest that, I mean, we do have the historic report in the staff report is attached to the environmental document. And I think because the nature of the fair argument that was raised deals specifically with this issue, you know, I want to make sure that we have good consultation with our historic resources specialists and don't, you know, just shoot from the hip with a response that, you know, gets basically embedded into our administrative record. So I'd request a little time to respond to that. And that's one good reason for, you know, potentially deferring any kind of town hall to a point when we have our draft our draft environmental impact report ready so that we can share what, you know, some of the responses to this fair argument are.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. That's really fine. I just wanted to follow up with it since it was something that was raised to me and I didn't really have good answers for it. So I thought I would pass the question along. Yeah. My only other question is just kind of going back to the parking issue. I know that there's also been talk of like a slightly smaller roundabout or going with alternative 3 with the T intersection. Would that actually be a significantly less of an impact on the parking situation, or would it not make much of a difference?
The smaller roundabout will have a smaller impact on parking, but not significant to make the big difference. I would say I haven't done the numbers of parking, and we can do that. But I would say current diameter of the proposed roundabout or the project roundabout is 110 or 113, and then the reduced would be around 96. So that's not a big difference to add additional parking. So it will have very small significant impact, I would say, on parking.
Great, thank you so much. I don't have any other questions right now. Thanks.
Okay, and Councilmember Atkins Salazar.
Yes, most of the people who reached out to me were concerned with safety, and there's concern that the project might get delayed again. So I guess my question is, do you believe that even though we're adding in the EIR, that we can still keep the project on track?
Based on the information we have right now, we understand, as David mentioned, that we have a pretty robust documents prepared, and our EIR document could be completed in 4 to 6 months. As long as we are able to do that, we will not be losing the funding for the project. We did request an extension last year because of the environmental documents, so we did get extension on some of the funding, so that's still available, but there is a timeline that we need to finish our environmental document by the end of this year to go for the next phase of the project.
Thank you.
And actually the question I had was similar to yours, Councilmember Atkins Salazar, just about timeline and funding and what would be the impacts going through this process, this necessary process, but just wanting to have a sense of like how tight is the timeline for funding. So it's good to know that we've gotten an extension. I think at this point, let's open it up to public comment. So typically, I think for my new colleagues, I know we've been doing, 2 minutes for public comment, but for those that have been, following, over several years, there are times where we grant extra time on certain, challenging issues. So I did want to increase it to 3 minutes for public comment on this item. So let's see, do we have any members of the public wanting to comment on this item? Folks will have 3 minutes for their comments.
We do have some public comment. I believe many are familiar, but just a reminder for attendees that if you are wishing to make public comment tonight, please, and you are online, please use the raise your hand on the corner of your screen. And if you're on the phone, *9 to raise your hand. And let's see. So far, we have 3 that want to make public comment. And our first one is a screen named Amy. And next will be Raw War Paint. Can you go ahead, Amy?
Hi, thanks. I am a resident on Highland, and just want to say how happy I am to see that sidewalk on Highland being included. It looked like maybe it was included in all the alternatives, but it's an incredibly busy little corner, and I was curious as to how far up the sidewalk would go, and it looked like it was going to be on the north side, but I wasn't certain of that. And just how supportive I am of the whole project, and I just can't wait for it to happen. The number of near misses that we see is really scary, and the work that the school staff does to try to keep traffic flowing and keep everybody safe, they're just heroes out there every day. So I feel like they take a lot of risk and to really support the whole community. So I'm really thrilled that it's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Raw War Paint, and then after that will be Maggie. Go ahead, please.
Hi, there's actually 2 of us here, so it'll be 2 comments. I'll go first. I live approximately 300 feet south of Jacoby Creek Road on Old Arcata Road. I'm very happy with the Roundabout project and optimistic it will alleviate some troublesome issues that occur on this section of Old Arcata Road. Just south of Jacoby Creek Road, Old Arcata Road has a blind curve before the road straightens out and the speed limit jumps from 25 miles per hour to 45 miles per hour. Vehicles make the turn anticipating this increased speed limit and are more often than not already going 45 miles per hour while still in a 25 mile per hour zone. This has led to countless near misses as I and my neighbors exit our driveways in vehicles and as pedestrians. We live in a 25 mile per hour zone. However, most vehicles are exceeding this speed as they drive by. I worry that when vehicles exit the new roundabout heading south, they will immediately increase their speed around the bend and consider themselves to be in a 45 mile per hour zone. I worry this will lead to an increased risk of serious accidents and vehicle noise from vehicles revving up from 5 to 10 miles per hour to 45 miles per hour and beyond. I feel it is imperative for there to be a 25 mile per hour sign south of the roundabout for vehicles heading south in order for them to be aware that they are not yet in a 45 mile per hour zone. I would also welcome a speed hump south of the roundabout so that vehicles are forced to remain within the speed limit until they are outside of the 25 mile per hour zone. This will also be helpful for vehicles heading north as they will be traveling 45 miles per hour and approaching a blind curve where vehicles may be completely stopped as they wait to enter the roundabout. Also, I feel it is dangerous for the speed limit to jump 20 miles per hour from 25 to 45 miles per hour. Many vehicles speed on this road, and some see 45 miles per hour as a sign to drive 55 miles per hour. I plead with you to help us make this stretch of road outside my house safer with the features I have suggested.
And I would just like to add, my window overlooks the 45 mile per hour speed sign, and I constantly, sitting at my desk here, hear the traffic speeding up before they take the corner. It's a constant source of noise. I've actually struggled to hear part of this meeting the volume on our computer is turned all the way up, but the traffic noise is so loud that it's been difficult to hear. And it's just, I don't know, it's really scary when we try and cross the road to be on the right side of the road for walking. It's scary to leave our driveway. I see our neighbors nearly get T-boned trying to pull out of their driveway constantly. And I just really struggle with the 20-mile-per-hour jump right in front of our homes. And that pretty much sums up. And yes, as again, like, will the roundabout create more of an issue if that speed sign doesn't change or have some kind of improvement for people to be more aware? Because they may, 5 miles to 10 miles to 45 is going to make even more noise and be even more dangerous. And what happens when more vehicles are electric and we can't even hear them coming? So it's kind of a double-edged sword. The noise is awful as it is, but then once it's electric, are we going to risk getting T-boned even more? And that would be all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Maggie, and after that, Jude. Go ahead, Maggie. Maggie, I know you were having some problems earlier. We can't hear you. It looks like you need, there you go.
I'm so sorry.
Yep.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I live south of the proposed roundabout also. And what I see happening here is trying to serve a multitude of issues with one little roundabout that it's not going to be possible to address. I have 4 main points, and I'll try to zoom through them as quickly as possible. So we see the Bayside as it's settled as a community. It's a string of pearls all along Old Arcata Road, streets that come off of that are micro neighborhoods. From one end is the roundabout at South Bayside, Indianola, to the other end of Bayside at Buttermilk roundabout. And in the middle is the hub, our historic district. So the first issue is walkability. I've raised this many, many times, and I feel like it's exciting because I've walked it, I've bicycled it over more than 40 years. I really like what I hear happening in the part of Bayside that has been incorporated into the city of Arcata and in front of Jacoby Creek School. All along that stretch, I can clearly see that pedestrian safety is going to improve from the designs presented. Not so much with the roundabout. We know that roundabouts keep traffic moving nonstop, smoothly through a neighborhood. They do not enhance the safety or improve the walkability for pedestrians. And we've discussed this. I mean, it's a broken record. That is one of our organization's and my own personal main concerns as I age and I walk slower. I've watched people at all of the roundabouts, especially the one at Buttermilk, run like hell to get through there. So the walkability of just the roundabout does not enhance our community. I want to refer, this is a second point, to a quite old document for the city of Arcata, Physical Design Recommendations for Achieving Community Social Goals. This document was really helpful to me. It was prepared for the city by Sedway Cook, urban and environmental planners and designers. In the 90s, when we were our goal, Gaynor and Associates, was working with a number of organizations in the city to increase participation in recycling. And we divided the city using this document. We did everything by grassroots organizing, neighborhood by neighborhood. I would encourage you to look at this. This is a time when these kinds of social goals were a priority for community planning in Bayside and in Arcata. So third, once again, our organization contends that our goals for improving safety and our goal for the historic hub. Okay, am I up?
Maggie, thank you. It's been 3 minutes. But if you have anything else to submit in writing, I encourage you to do so.
Okay.
Next will be Jude, and after that will be phone and caller ending in 7404. Go ahead, please, Jude. Can you unmute? Okay, we will try again in a moment.
Okay, it worked. I'm sorry.
There you go. Great. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So my name is Jude Power, and I've lived for 28 years on Highland Street in the incorporated part of Bayside. So I elect council members, I pay taxes to Arcata, and I want to say that I really support the sidewalk extension on Highland Street because it would allow students at the school to safely walk to their parked cars when school lets out 3 times each day. The lack of safe passage for students and parents who are forced to walk in the lane of traffic, I think, is a significant liability risk to the city. And I think that completing the already started sidewalk should be a priority. I also strongly encourage the council members to vote to construct a roundabout at the 5-way junction at the post office and Jacoby Creek and Old Arcata Road. According to your documents, Caltrans evaluated this intersection in 2013 and found that its ability to accommodate traffic would be rated, quote, very poor within the next 20 years due to traffic congestion and reduced safety. This intersection poses a significant liability risk to the city of Arcata as the project lead agency. So you've been informed in writing by Caltrans and many citizens that this is a problematic intersection which needs to be made safe. In Caltrans' own words, quote, based on the Caltrans EIR, a roundabout is an essential long-term solution, close quote. Also, I would like to say, as a walker along Old Arcata Road who walks through Buttermilk, I must insist that roundabouts enhance the safety and walkability for pedestrians. I feel far, far safer crossing the Buttermilk roundabout than I feel crossing the road at the post office at the Jacoby Creek intersection. That's a wild and crazy intersection, is exceedingly unsafe for pedestrians. The roundabouts feel a lot safer to me. So I would just ask that the city council choose what is in the interest of public safety. I'm frustrated with the delays and further taxpayers' expenses of an EIR that's just going to be about historic buildings. I have been coming to these meetings since 2020, and I just want to see it happen. I want this area to be safe. I want it to be brought up to current standards. And also, I'm very happy about the green swale. So thanks for continuing that. Okay, thanks for your work.
Thank you. Next is a phone caller with the last number 7404, and after that will be Chelsea. Go ahead, caller. There you go. Go ahead, please.
All right. All right, thank you. My name is Jim Zolik, and I live at 1766 Old Arcata Road. I've lived here for 23 years now. I'm a homeowner. That location is 3 doors north, or 3 doors toward Arcata from the Bayside Post Office on the same side of the street, next door to the old post office, actually. And my home is where the old postmistress lived, Muriel Graham. So I'm calling in. I agree with many of the things I've heard. I thank the city staff and all the folks that have worked on this project for years now. I share the frustration that I heard from the last speaker about the delay. I would prefer this not to be delayed. I think the safety is a super big issue. Our kitchen faces the roadway. I watch Kids walk to school. I watch people walking their dogs. I walk my dog. I ride my bike. I walk to the post office. I walk to the cafe. There is a lot of pedestrian and bicycle traffic through Bayside, and currently it is not safe at all. People come, 45, 50, 55 miles per hour, even faster from Eureka through the 45-mile-an-hour zone. They come around that sweeping bend that was designed to create a, quick flow of traffic, and they fly right, if they don't make the turn properly, they're going to be in my bedroom, literally. And I know that happened, up on Humboldt Hill to somebody who was killed in the middle of the night because some car went off the road and went through the bedroom. So I think the roundabout is absolutely necessary. I think it will fit in well with the other two roundabouts that are just further north on Old Arcata Road. I think people are becoming accustomed to how to drive through the roundabouts. It's something that, is a little bit hard for people to get used to, but they're getting better at it. I realized I heard some concerns for people that live south of us. I think the city's done a good job of addressing people's concerns. Maybe it sounds like maybe there's a little bit more work to do, but I strongly encourage, the council to approve this project when they get the chance to do that, both for the sidewalk and for the roundabout. I know some people are opposed to changing the rural nature of Bayside. People always have a hard time with change. I have a hard time with change. The roadway is going to move closer to my front yard, the center of the roadway. I don't like that. I wish that wasn't going to happen, but I know that for the better, the greater good for my neighborhood and everybody around here, and for myself, that this project is a big net benefit. And so I'm willing to have the the middle of the road move toward my house. And I'm just hoping that traffic will slow down. People go very fast through here, and it's really scary, and somebody's going to be seriously hurt. One of my neighbors was hit in the crosswalk at golf course. So thank you very much for your time, and please support this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Chelsea, and then after that will be Emily. Go ahead, please, Chelsea.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chelsea, and I live on the south side of Old Arcata Road, just south of the proposed project area. I am super in favor of these sidewalks and really looking forward to being able to have running areas and areas to walk my nieces and nephews to school. And I'm super looking forward to this. I would also like to just advocate for putting speed humps or some sort of slow down measure before or on the south side of the project area before the slower zone. Cars do go incredibly fast in this area, and especially with a lot of small kids or runners or, just people wanting to enjoy their neighborhood around here, it poses a threat. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is Emily, and at this time, we don't have anyone else raising their hand yet. Go ahead, please, Emily.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Emily, and I'm a resident of Arcata. My husband and I own a home just north of the area in consideration. I walk my dog on a daily basis along the side of Old Arcata Road that does not have a sidewalk. And I also have really good friends in the neighborhood that live right where the proposed project will extend to. We frequently try to limit the use of cars and choose to walk and bike to visit each other. My friends have small children, and while we enjoy the portion of Old Arcata Road that's north of Jacoby Creek School that has a safe sidewalk, we're forced to continue our journey on the side of the road without dealing with fast traffic. To say it feels unsafe is an understatement. Additionally, folks drive, specifically to this area to bike and walk. Catering to visitors to Arcata and to this specific area of the community is a benefit for the entire city. The addition of a roundabout or other traffic calming measures, as well as a safe sidewalk, would enable families and those with pets to enjoy our beautiful community safely. So I strongly and respectfully encourage council to move this project forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Will, and no one is in line after that at this point. Go ahead, please, Will. We've got you on mute. There you go.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Here now, standing outside the proposed construction site from in front of my house, which is just south of the proposed construction site. I have three young.
Will, no, we can't.
I am on data. Excuse me.
Oh, yep, that's sounding better so far. Try that.
Okay. Let's give this one more shot. I apologize for wasting your time.
No, not at all.
I am, can you hear me now?
Yes.
We're good to go? Okay.
Yes. Oh.
The proposed, dang it.
There you, now you're, well, you.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, there you go. That sounds great.
Okay. Maybe we should work on some Wi-Fi out here too, but sorry about that, everybody. I just wanted to offer my support for this project. We live just south of the proposed construction site. Me and my wife live right on Old Arcata Road. And as other commenters have said, we really are in support of reduced traffic speeds south of the proposed construction site area. I think that this project is really going to be a great asset to the community for walkability, for safety, and particularly for people with children who are attending the school. That I am one of those residents. We have 3 children in the ages of 3, 5, and 7. And our 7-year-old attends Jacoby Creek School. And we have friends that live right down the street. We have lots of neighbors that the kids play with. And there's children living in many houses around us, including my neighbors behind us with kids the exact same age. And so the walk to school, the walk to the little cafe there, it's beautiful. It's great. We love it. But it is absolutely mortifying being along the road there. And particularly as we leave our house, where people come around that bend, see the 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, and it's like an invitation to just hit the gas as hard as you can. If there's any way, and I know this is a joint project with the county, that if the county can do something about that in coordination with this project and the city to put in the speed humps, as people have said, whatever needs to be done to reduce the speed of people entering this proposed project area and really make it even safer, I'm all for. If you look at, if we're talking about the historic site here and the history of it, this was built as a freeway pretty much. It is no longer in a completely rural area. It's surrounded by houses with children's school. People are using this to go down to the trailhead over by the Wildlife Center area. Lots of bikes, lots of people walking every day. That's what's so great about the area, frankly, and it will only be improved if we make it safer and make it more inviting for people to utilize it in that way. So I respectfully request that we advance this and do not delay, and we advance it as soon as possible. And I really am thankful for the work done by the council, by by staff. It's been a lengthy project, so my deepest thanks to City Engineer Khatri, Director Loya, and everyone who has put forth the effort to get it to where we are. Let's see it through to the end. Thank you so much for hearing me out.
Thank you, Will. All right, checking if there are any more public commenters for this item. Seeing no more public comment, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And thank you everyone for taking the time to speak to us. I'm going to just do by roll call, see if there's any further comments or a motion from the council. So we'll start with Councilmember Schaefer.
No further questions or comments right now, but thank you to all the members of the public who commented. And it's, I feel like I've been receiving a lot of negative comment about this project lately. So it's also really nice to hear, positive comment and kind of see, these people that are living there, how this is directly going to affect them. So just thank you to everybody that commented, and no further questions.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Goldstein.
Yeah, I also just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate everybody. We had so many people call in tonight, and I appreciate every single person that called in. But I agree. I feel like I've heard a lot of opposition to this project, so it was really refreshing and nice to hear support for the project. I think that as an elected elected person, sometimes I feel like I have to put my own opinion aside because you all elected me, and I have to listen to what you all are saying. So when I'm hearing negative, again and again, I feel like that's the way I need to vote. And so it's really nice to hear support for this project too, because I personally, after reading a lot this week, listening to a lot of presentations, talking with a lot of folks, I feel like it is really important. And I do support this project because I think it is important for the safety of that neighborhood. It's not the neighborhood that I live in Arcata, so I don't want to say that I can speak from personal experience living over in that part of Arcata, but I really appreciate you all calling in to describe your safety concerns tonight. And I think there was one caller who said something along the lines of just basically that it's about the community. It's not about one individual. I think he said that, it's going to encroach a little bit on his property and that's not his favorite thing, but he sees that it's the best thing for the community. And I think that's really how I'm seeing this project at this moment, that I know that it's not everybody's favorite thing, that it's not going to be the thing that every single person wants in that neighborhood. And I wish we can make every single person happy with exactly what they wanted. But I think that the way I'm seeing it at this point is that it's what's best for everybody's safety, which is, my top concern right now. So I just really appreciate all the different perspectives. And to those that invited me out last weekend, I appreciate you taking the time to have me in your neighborhood and walk me through the project from your eyes too. It really gave me valuable perspective as well. So yeah, I would just echo that at this point, I think at some point we're going to move forward. So I don't see a reason to delay. It seems like we should just make this happen because the safety of the community is really important. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And then Councilmember Atkins Salazar.
I don't have any further questions, but I do want to reiterate what Council Members Goldstein and Schaefer did say about the public taking the time to reach out to us from both sides. And I know, people in general are getting a little frustrated because this has taken a long time to accomplish. So thank you to both sides for continuing to come out and to fight for the improvements that you want and to reach out to us. It really does help us in our decision making.
Thank you. I just wanted to give a few comments. I think being the sole council member here tonight that's been involved in this over the past, several years, I think the presentation tonight, did a really great job of giving that high level overview of the incredible amount of community engagement that happened to get this project to where it is. And I think the public comment that we've received tonight, is a reflection of that input. We have folks that, have different opinions on it, things that they would like to see differently. But I think the broad general support for this project is because of that years of outreach and developing and refining the process. And so those were some of the factors that played into our decision at the council that approved alternative 4 at that time. So I think I'm wondering for staff, what you need from us is a direction on if we are going to continue the hearing to a certain date to do a town hall, or if we want to wait until there's a draft EIR and then do the public hearing there. Personally, I'm just going to say, I think having the draft EIR be ready to go for people to give that input, I think is a better use of the community's time, given the level of engagement that we've done already over the years. I would rather them give input on something more concrete of here's the draft EIR versus doing a town hall before there's even that document for them to give input on, which we would then obviously want their input on. And I feel like we've got a lot of really robust input tonight and recently that we can incorporate into the process. So I don't know if there's a motion either way on that, but I think as a council, we need to give staff direction on that.
Thank you, Mayor Pereira, for your guidance on that. I will move that we that we hold our public input meetings after we have completed the draft EIR.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion before we go to a vote? Okay, so I'll call the vote by roll. Councilmember Schaefer.
Aye.
Councilmember Goldstein.
Aye.
Councilmember Atkins Salazar.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. And is there anything else from staff that you need from us? Okay. Okay, great.
Perfect.
And thank you again to everyone who participated in tonight's meeting and who've written and connected with all of us. More to come. And next we have oral and written communications. This time is provided for people to address the council on matters that are not on tonight's agenda. Please raise your hand if you are on the Zoom webinar or press *9 now if you are on a phone line and you would like to make a public comment. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes. When it is your time for public comment, the clerk will unmute you and invite you to speak. Do we have any members of the public that would like to comment?
Taking a moment to check if there's any public comment. We do not have any public comment at this time.
Okay, then we will move to council and staff reports. Are there any staff updates?
No staff updates tonight, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Atkins Salazar.
I do have one update. So Vice Mayor Watson and myself, along with Director Loya, Chief Ahern, Sheriff Hansel, and Arcata House Director Darlene Spohr were invited to attend a meeting regarding homelessness and the possibility of a homeless camp here in Arcata. And the general theme of that meeting was that the attendees really felt that we do need some type of low barrier to entry camping for homeless people. And this was the second meeting that the Vice Mayor and I have attended with concerned business owners and community members regarding their concerns about the homeless people. So my suggestion is that we put an agenda item on our next meeting so that we can start the discussion regarding this issue. It's my understanding that our homelessness services working group has been working on this topic. So I think a good place to start would be to hear from that group and then see where we need to go from there and just get that discussion started.
Great, thank you. Let's go through reports and then if there's any initial comments on that. Usually if there's a proposed agenda item, we kind of do we count what do we call it? It's not a straw poll, but it's like twinkles or something.
Twinkles, yeah.
We count twinkles in Arcata, not straw. So let's see, Councilmember Goldstein, any updates from you?
No updates, thanks.
Okay, and Councilmember Schaefer?
No updates, thank you.
Okay, the only update I have for Humboldt Waste Management Authority, we're still in the recruitment process for an executive director. So that continues to be our focus. And we did just, I think we finalized our budget. So we have a balanced budget for the year, so that's very nice. Okay, so in terms of the proposal to put this item on a future agenda, possibly the next one. Any opposition to that or twinkles of support? Okay, we can do like jazz hands for, okay, perfect. Okay, great. So we'll work with the city manager to see, if this next meeting or the one right after, just in timing with the other agenda items, but let's get it on definitely sooner than later. Obviously, there's a lot of interest in this, and we'll go from there. So thank you for attending that meeting and for bringing this back to the council.
Thank you all as well.
Okay, and with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.